Well, good morning to you, or good afternoon, depending on what part of the continent you're calling in from. We've got folks from across Canada, down the US. My name's Scott, and joining me today, as always, hey, good morning, Natalie. How are you doing?
Good morning. How are you today?
We're having a really good day. Now we're just about to get started. It's the top of the hour, and both Natalie and I want to honor your time and get started fairly quickly. But just before we get started, if you could, all those background programs, your iTunes, and everything else that might be streaming bandwidth on you, that just might make this face even wrinklier than it is. If you could shut those down, that'd be fantastic. And we're going to get ourselves started. Now, on the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see a little toolbar where you can ask questions of Natalie and I throughout. We've got a couple of places where we'll take questions, and certainly, at the end. But as always, afterwards in the presentation, if you want to get a hold of either Natalie or I, we will give you that contact information as well. Does that sound okay? What am I missing, Natalie? Is there anything else I need to say before we get started?
I think you got it covered.
Well, I'm not usually that good, so this must be a sign of a good day. So welcome to Passion Pivots. It's your thing. Passion Pivots, if you haven't heard the name before, it's about getting from the life that is where you have to do things to where you want to do things. And that can mean career, that can mean interests, and a whole bunch of things. And in our webcast today, Natalie is can I use the term mind dentist, Natalie? Is that okay?
Yeah, I use the brain dentist. Absolutely.
Okay. The brain does it. And we have a system, Passion Pivots, of helping people, no matter where they are, get from there to their next dream, something that they really hold dear to their heart, even if they don't know what it is. And to get us started, we're going to be about 45 minutes here today. But Natalie, can I sort of lob it over to you, because you wanted to start out in a pretty cool way, and I think everyone was going to enjoy that.
Well, I guess there's just one thing that always makes sense when I go onto a webinar myself, or when I do any type of learning, is to understand the maybe understand where is the person coming from. And I just thought I would share with you a few things about me. When I was 19 years old, well, if you backtrack even before that, I wanted to get a skirt, and I asked my mom to buy it, and it was not any skirt. It was a acid wash jeans, like back in the days. It was very important for a 9 years old to get that. And my mom didn't want to buy it for me. Instead, she hired me in her printing business, so that I could make money and start and be able to buy whatever I wanted for myself. So fast track 10 years later, I was managing the printing business, because now we had invested into a bigger one in Quebec City. And I was there managing at 19 years old. I had over 20 staff. I had no idea what I was doing. I was even wearing my mom's clothes because I didn't know how to get respect from them. And I was trying to walk in high heels and wearing big makeup and trying to be somebody that I wasn't. I had no clue what I was doing. There's a lot of different things that happens in our lives, and we're not always sure where we're at and if we like things. And if you fast track another 20 years later, I had a full-time job, and I was creating my own business on the side. I stayed there for 17 years. In the last 5 years, I didn't want to be there anymore, because I was creating my own business on the side. And I didn't know when it was time for me to make the leap and jump and say, okay, that's what I love. I'm going to do that full-time, and I'm going to quit that other job. And I was stuck there. So I don't know about you, Scott, but is there anything in your life where you felt like you were not at the right place, or you didn't know what you were doing, or you knew what you wanted to do, but you were just not doing it? You were holding on to something else. Is it just me?
No, and I think, if you're on the call here today, you've probably got that primal urge somewhere in your belly that you could even be enjoying what you're doing, but you know that there's something else out there that's going to be more meaningful for you. And mine was, right out of university, I was groomed to be, a corporate financier. I was sitting at a big bank and a big desk, and I'm 22, and I've got my own assistant and all these things. And an unhealthy ego, by the way. Has anybody else had an unhealthy ego at an inappropriate age? And I hated it. It was the soulless place to be. And so I left the bank. I went out to Whistler in British Columbia. I bartended for a season. By the way, very insightful for a career path. And then I went to Hawaii on my savings from my tips. And I said, if I could do anything in the world, what would it be? And I came up with, well, you know what it is. I wanted to work with wildlife. I loved animals. So I came back and I started and created Canada's largest endangered animal sanctuary, taking care of lions and tigers and you know, working with kids who, you know, for Make-A-Wish Foundation, taking care of animals. It was an incredible passion pivot for me. So Nathalie, just to, you know, a short answer to the question is, I think I've had 4 or 5 passion pivots since there, and I think that's important. If you're listening here now, you may have one in mind, but there's probably a whole bunch more out there that are, you know, waiting for you to happen. So that was sort of how I got into this unorthodox lifestyle. And do you think it's important for our, you know, folks who are listening here today to sort of get a sense that this is an ongoing journey, not a destination?
So why are we telling you these stories? Mainly is, I don't know if you know the story of the guy that fell in the hole. So the guy is stuck there in that hole, and a lady walks by and she looks at him. She tries to help him, but he's too deep and she can't do anything. So she writes down a prayer on a piece of paper and she throws it in the hole. And then the other guy walks by and he tries to help him. The guy's a doctor. He's a PhD, and he's got many letters after his name, and he tries to help him, but yet the guy is too stuck and the guy can't do anything. So all he can do is write a prescription, because that's what he does, and he throws it in the hole, but the guy is still stuck. And then a third guy walks by and he looks at the man in the hole and he jumps in. So the other guy goes, what did you do that for? Now there's 2 of us that are stuck here. And the guy said, don't worry, I've been here before. I'll show you the way out. So the reason why we're telling you these stories is not, it's not important that you get to know us. That's not the point. You're not here. You're here for yourself, for your passion pivot, for where you want to go. It's not about us. The reason why we're starting with these stories is just to let you know we've been there before, and we'll show you the way out. And Scott is a transition expert. He has taken so many people from their whatever life that they had into the life of their dream. That's what he does. And he's created this passion pivot system, which is very aligned with the system that I use, the DNA system. So we put our efforts together to put this program together. So I'll let you take it off, Scott.
No worries. And you know what Nathalie says, it's amazing that, you know, Nathalie and I met through the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, and we go, hey, you know, I'm vanilla, you know, and she goes, and I'm vanilla with strawberry. We had similar flavors, but there's some distinctions here, and they really complement each other. And so, you know, I've created academies, passion pivots for professional sports leagues, Canadian military, and organizations of when folks are thinking about next career. So I love what I do. You're actually, you know, part of my passion pivot. So, you know, with that in mind, I want to say thank you to everyone who is attending here. And we have several dozen of you here across, you know, Canada. If you can just sort of shout out, you see in the chat box down there, just, you know, if you can put in where you're calling from, or you're logging in from, we'll take a look and see who's there. But we want to thank you for your time, because I know your time is precious, and we want to make sure it's very valuable for you. So what are passion pivots? So we've talked about passion pivots is a system that, you know, let's put it this way. You've woken up and you said, yes, you know, I want to go live in Bali, or I want to write a book, or I want this kind of job. And it becomes air dust after a while. It doesn't get the traction you want. And working with Nathalie, we've constructed this 3 pillar system, if you will, 3 elements that need to be strong and in place to make a cerebral thought, a dream, become reality. And the first one of that is the heart. We have to get a sense, and that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the heart, which is the vision, the passion that you hold for different things in your belly. And you may have heard of this guy, you know, Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett, financier, you know, in his late 80s now, and he's still rocking the world. You know, guys who are, you know, 40 years younger going, how does this guy do it? Anyways, when he talks about passion, he gets people to write down the top 25 things that they're passionate about, and then knock off the bottom 20 and leave the top 5, because those are the things that you're probably passionate about. And so the first pillar of our system here is to get your heart aligned with what you like to do. I love wildlife. I love working with people. I don't like working in an office, and I don't like working necessarily with numbers. That's not what jazzes me. And so we need to find out with some clarity what our vision might be. And Nathalie, if you can sort of talk about the second pillar within the Passion Pivot system.
So the second pillar is the head. So we will cover this next month in the September webinar mainly. And the main thing we want to know about the head is, that's my specialty, because that's what I do. I do neuroscience. It's everything about the brain and how neural pathways are created in our head, specifically to generate your internal drivers. So we talked about the heart, what drives you, what you feel like, what you enjoy, what you love. The head is how do you actually program your brain as if you were a robot and you could input in a software everything you wanted the robot to do. And it's the system to eliminate self-sabotage. You know, I don't know, Scott, do you sometimes do the reverse of what you know you should be doing? Does that
each and every day. Each and every
I know it happens to me too. Sometimes we do that to ourselves, or negative self-talk. You know, sometimes you talk to yourself a certain way, and you're not even you can't even share this with anybody, because if you were talking to your friends the same way you talk to yourself, you wouldn't have any friends, and that's all of us. There's lots of research that show that 70% of what we tell ourselves is negative, and it's the same 85% things that we were telling ourselves last week and the month before. So we keep talking to ourselves a certain way, and that's what we'll cover in the like today we're focusing on the heart, but we're just telling you the whole system. So the head is really how to actually program your brain so that your self-talk becomes more serving, and you can recreate new neural pathway and reprogram your brain so that it follows your heart.
Yeah, and just to add on that before we get to the third pillar, I was just sharing with Nathalie, I was reading a Stanford University study that showed that IQ, or your attitudes are more important than your natural intelligence. It's that programming. What happens when we get a challenge put in front of us? Do we go say, hey, this is a learning opportunity, or do we become naturally fearful of things? And I think for a lot of people, including myself, there's a lot of dreams that I still have tucked away in there. And the reason they're tucked away in there, I could say I don't have time, I don't have money or something. It's fear, you know, and I'm really looking forward to that session, because that's what you do. Now, the third pillar of the Passion Pivot system is
health. That's mainly, that's at the base. You cannot go anywhere with a broken vehicle. So even if you have the heart, you have the head, if you don't have your health, if you don't have sleep, and as a transformation expert, people come to me for many different reasons. So some of them want to advance their career. I do think yourself wealthy. Some people want to make more money. Some people are working on their relationship. And every single one of them, the very first thing that I work on with all my clients is their sleep. Because most people they don't have problems. They think that they have anxiety. They think that they are put under a lot of stress. They think that they have this disease, or and most of them are just sleep deprived. So when you start with the base and you start sleeping well, and that's the very first thing we do at the first session, and then from then on, people start sleeping well, their whole life change, and they think, oh my gosh, this girl is so awesome. I get so much result. It's just because they start sleeping well. That's the first phase. Then you need to exercise. You need to be healthy. So we will be covering all of that and all the principles about health, because it's not making any sense to have all your mindset in order and follow your passion if you are not treating yourself well, and meaning your body, your sleep, your health, your nutrition, your exercise. You need to be moving, take some fresh air. There's a lot of healthy habits that are a must. You can't go without that.
Yeah. And so altogether, the system is designed to, give you the vision, to give you the attitudes, and then the body fuel to get what you want. And if any one of those pieces are missing, it becomes really a challenge to make the progress. Now today, as Nathalie said, we're talking about the heart, and you've registered for a 3-part series webcast. The next one, September 18th, is going to be on the head, and the final one in October is going to be on health. So our goal over those 3 webcasts is to give you the tools to get you started on that journey. And the journey, as we talked about before, oh, I hate this picture. Remember I mentioned to me banking days? Yeah, there I am, some sort of international banking function. And don't I look happy? Or do I look happy now? Okay. This was Micah, a Siberian tiger, that we were able to help out with hundreds of other animals when we created the Speaking of Wildlife Animal Refuge. And if you've ever seen any of the CBC shows, Kratz Creatures or Zaboomafoo, we provided some of the animals there. And what we would do is my passion was to help wildlife. And we would take in abandoned circus animals, pets, animals that could not be released in the wild, who had socialization needs and sometimes socialization issues. And we created a sanctuary for them. We would visit children's hospitals to do animal therapy. It was good for some of the animals. I still remember, Nathalie, I took a big Burmese python, 5 meters long, named Julius Squeezer. And I would take the snake to seniors' homes, and the seniors would all hold the snake because they did not think that kids would believe them if that they had actually touched a snake that big. Just an incredible passion pivot, and that was one of my first. Next one was setting up a group called Adventure 5.0, which is about the 3rd pillar of the Passion Pivot system, which is getting adventure, health, and fitness into your life. And here I am with my family, and we're down in Kenya working with children and creating a Lunch for Life program for them so that they could have food at lunch. Again, a different kind of passion pivot. And the one that I should have started a long time ago is because I won't use that word often, but I hate public speaking. And now what am I? I am a public speaker. And I put this slide up simply because on your journey, you never know what's going to ignite in your belly. The important thing is to go from thought to action, to sort of, brush up against those kinds of things and get a feeling for what you are. So I speak across North America on a variety of business topics, and I absolutely love it now. I can't imagine doing anything else. But if you were to ask me 30 years ago, Nathalie, Scott, you want to be a professional speaker? I'd say, take me out of the game now. I just have no desire to do that at all. So your biggest fears can become some of your biggest benefits later on. And Nathalie, too, has had a few of her passions. I love this picture, Nathalie. How old were you in that one?
Isn't that awesome? I think that's probably my mom's outfit, actually. And I'm probably 19 years old at that time. I'm managing one of our printing business. So we eventually sold our business. So there was a bigger player in Quebec City that finally bought us. They were flirting with us every year, trying to make a bigger and a bigger offer. And at the end, my mom, my brother, and I decided to sell the business. Now, the way I had been able to invest in that business, because I did own my own shares, was through fitness, because I have been teaching fitness for over 30 years. And in parallel to managing the printing business, I was teaching classes every night and on the weekend. So as a kid, I started teaching at 13 years old. I had a lot of money, because when you work that hard, so what I would do is I would go to school. After school, I would go work at the printing until 5 or 6, and then from 6 to 9, I would teach 3 classes every night. So about 10 to 15 classes a week that I would be teaching, times $20 an hour at that time in my village. That's a big fortune for a kid that age. So I would reinvest all the money in my mom's printing business and buy my own shares. So when we sold, I could actually do whatever I wanted. I did not need to work anymore, because we had finally made a big chunk of money, and I did not know what to do, and I had to do something that I love. So I went into a health food company to learn more about nutrition, because I had the fitness background, and yet I had been teaching for 15 years yet, and I was still eating donut for breakfast. because I just didn't know any better. So I went to work for a health food company because I thought there's got to be more than just exercising. So I learned more about nutrition. And I eventually moved to Toronto, created the market there for the health food company that I was working for, and then eventually left the health food company and started my own. After doing my own for a while, I decided to take the leap.
So
Another
thing we're seeing up there, I see there's a new picture up there. Where are you there?
I love that. That's in Haiti. So I do some work with an orphanage in Haiti, where I work with an organization called Heart to Heart, which builds their whole foundation on education. So they have schools, they hire locals to do the work there. They hire, so we are empowering children through education to take their own meeting at hand. So that's another passion pivot. And then I think you might have one more picture.
Just before we get to that one, if we can, I think it's really great to realize that passion pivots can be about a career. It can be about an interest that you have, but that interest could be in giving back. And
Absolutely.
That's, I think, I'm not sure about you, but, of all the pivots I've had, being in Kenya and, helping kids learn how to brush their teeth or things that you're doing, hey, that has made the most profound effect in my life in terms of good habits.
And we think we go there to help them. And we did not. I don't know about you, Scott, but I came back and they helped me understand how our reality and how ridiculous it is that we feel like we have problem when these kids are happy all the time. Yes. They are my biggest teachers, and I am eternally grateful for everything that they have taught me and that they're still teaching me. So Yuri, the little boy on my lap there, is actually my sponsor child. So we are still in touch, and I'm still connected with the older kids as well on Messenger, and we chat on a regular basis. And man, they live in such a different world, and yet they're teaching me so much all the time.
I would have said the same thing. I just think you said it better. Here's the other pivot you have. This is sort of a little different, but look at all the books you have written.
Yeah, with the fitness and the nutrition, I realized that the clients that were successful was not because I was teaching them a better squat or giving them a better kale salad recipe. It was because they were starting to change the way they thought. So that's when I discovered neuroscience about 11 years ago, and I started to study more, got a master in neuro-linguistic programming, and realized that people can change. And that's what we're going to talk about on our next event. So I created the Think Yourself series. So these are my recent books: Think Yourself Grateful, Think Yourself Healthy, Think Yourself Clean, Think Yourself a Relationship Pro, Think Yourself Successful. And I have lots of other Think Yourselves in the series. And this is my biggest passion right now, is to make people realize that they have everything they need. You don't need another course, another this, another that. You have everything. What you need is to understand how to dig inside yourself, because you got this. And we're all extremely, astonishingly powerful. We all have a brain. We all have a heart, and we're going to learn how to leverage this.
Yes. So let's move on to that, and let's sort of, for the folks who are on this call, you've got a sense of where both Nathalie and I have come from and continue to go to, and that's the important part with the passion pivot, is that you may have already had a couple of great pivots, and you know what, I'm pretty sure you have, and others may just be going, you know what, I'm in the 40s or 50s, and I've had a couple turns, but I haven't gone to my true life passion, and you might even come across people say, listen, that pursuing passion stuff, what a bunch of hogwash. It's just airy fairy dream building kind of stuff. And, you can find all perspectives on that. But when you talk to people who've actually done it and had a system to pursue their passion, so it's just not thinking, it's actually taking it to action with a system behind them, the results are incredible. I mean, did you know that Steven Spielberg was refused, I think it was 4 times from University of Southern California Film School, 4 times he was refused. Steven Spielberg. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper in Kansas City for not being creative enough. what keeps folks like that and hundreds of others going, thousands of others going, is that they have a passion and they find their way. So we just want to acknowledge that each of us is in a different stage, and that we have, even if you've achieved your passion pivot, it's something that's going to be ongoing. Is that correct, Miss Nathalie?
100%.
Okay, because she was testing me on that, because she is the brain dentist on that one. So a lot of our folks that we talk to, maybe you can put this in the chat box if you'd like to. And when you have a career change, we can often lose a major part of our identity. And so if you've been working, in a specific profession or even a specific position for a decade or two, and all of a sudden you're thinking about switching up, I mean, what happens to somebody's confidence when that happens, Nathalie?
That's the problem. If we lose a part of who we are, we're not, the identity is really, really close to the top of our own self. There's 6 layers to a person's self, and the identity is so way up there that it governs everything. So if we lose part of our identity, all of a sudden everything else becomes jeopardized, and we lose our values and what's important to us, and we need to redefine. The thing is, we think that the identity is what we do, and it's not. It's who we are. So let's say you're a guitar player, you're a musician, you still have it inside you. It's not because you no longer have this guitar that you can't find another guitar to play, and you can still say I am a musician. Because when we lose something we do, we just lose a behavior, and we can continue to do something else and still be ourselves. And we need to understand the difference between what we do and what we are. And no, we're not losing who we are. When we say we lose a major part of our identities, because we chose to identify ourselves with what we do, but it's not true. And that's what we want you to realize here. You are not your behavior. You are not what you do for living.
So you have the skills, even in your previous job. When you leave, you still take those skills and you can redeploy those skills. One of our favorite case studies was a senior VP at a major corporation, 55, and just was not feeling it anymore, and decided to become a gardener. And what does being a senior VP in terms of, I believe this case, the portfolio was marketing, have to do with being a gardener and running a garden shop? Well, there's a lot of skills that actually parallel that are required there: the organization skills, the inventory skills. And it didn't take long for this specific individual to start feeling this new identity, by the way, without all the bureaucratic stress that comes with being in the C-suite of a major corporation. So what you do have does go with you a lot of the time. So one of the other things that we want to sort of get into and sort of plant in your mind, are there any habits that you have? And I'm going to ask you, Nathalie, what yours is, that don't serve you well and that you are committed to change. Think about that for a moment. What are some of the habits that you have? And just put down in the chat box. I'm going to read a couple out here. What habits do you have that don't serve you well? Okay, I always get this one, so thank you. Social media. Eating. Okay, excessive eating. You would not be alone in the North American diet with weak belly. So Nathalie, how about you? Is there any habits that you used to have or have that you decided to change or are willing to change?
Yeah, absolutely. One big thing for me was, and I maybe if I may just address the eating habit before, if we can answer that question. So what you want to do with this in order to change it is to understand the reason behind the behavior. If you're mentioning eating because you're eating the wrong things, instead of going away from what you can't have, if you've decided to cut, let's say, donut for me for breakfast, back in the days, you instead want to start looking forward to what you can have, because that's the biggest problem with diet, is start to understand the reason why you're eating these things, and very often it's going to give you the answer as to how to fulfill that. I had a client in San Francisco who was suddenly eating chocolate bars every day, and we found out that it's because she used to work for a chocolate company when she lived in Canada, in Toronto, and she missed her friends at her old job. That was it. So once you realize what's the connection between that bad habit and that thing that you're doing, that's when you can change things. So try to find what is connected, because now what she does is she just goes on Facebook, or she calls her friends, or she chats, and then the chocolate craving goes away.
So I'm going to get you to Natalie, so you don't sidestep this question because you're tap dancing, or we're asking you.
What was my bad habit? I have so many. I still have some habit. The main thing for me was to change. I used to wake up, go wash my face, brush my teeth, and then come straight to my computer and then do a quick cleanup on my emails. And sometimes, and I get up at 4:44. That's my alarm every day, 4:45. Sometimes it's 9 a.m. and I'm still in my pajama, stuck on my computer. And I did this for 5, 6, 7 years. That was my habit. I would get up, and then all of a sudden it's 9:30, 10 a.m. and now I'm in the shower getting ready. It did not make sense at all. So I was starting with what everybody else had addressed for me. So they were choosing how I would start my day, because I would address their email that they had sent me, as opposed to me choosing how I want to start my day. And I had to be very, very strict with closing my door and not get into my office until I had done, get up, do my exercise. I have a 6-minute routine that I do. Then I have my breakfast, I get dressed. And when I start in the morning, I start with what I have to do. And I do emails later in the day when I'm tired and I can't focus on doing my things anymore. Then I can answer everybody else's emails.
So you're going from being reactive to proactive.
I really had to be. That was a big deal for me.
Now mine is, I'm a Taurus guy, and I'm a bit sentimental. So I tend to hang on to old friendships, and I soon found out that the time consumed to nurture these old friendships was rather huge, and wasn't getting out to meet a lot of new people. And so I had to acknowledge that some things come into your life and other things are meant to leave your life. So it was what's the hunting term, the culling of the herd, if you will. That if there was friends that I'd be investing say X number of hours in per month, and we would just divide that in two. And instead of hanging out for 4 hours, we'd hang out for an hour. What I really wanted to do was to make more time available to meet new people who had interests and passions, and there was a connection to. And that was tough, because I'm a loyal kind of guy, and it sort of flew against the grain. But I can tell you, having done that and continuing to do that, it's opened up a whole bunch of new opportunities. And when you think about a passion pivot and you're thinking about a change, sometimes you have to change the people you hang with to make that change actually happen. So as Nathalie and I are confessing our sins to you, what are your sins? What is one that you would look at changing between now and September 18th, when we have our next webcast, that we can ask you at that point, going, yeah, over the past month, what did you actually take a look and focus on? We'll never call you out on it, but if you want to share it, that's pretty good.
Funny, 'cause there's somebody that's just saying in the chat box, can you even change? Because and that's a question that I get a lot, and people sit in my office or on Zoom call, and then they say, yeah, but I've been like this all my life. I'm 55 years old. What do you think? That's the way I am. That's it. And that's the primary mistake right there. People think their personality is set in stone, and it's not. You can be whatever you want to be. There's no more looking at somebody else and say, oh, I wish I was like that. You can change, and we'll teach you how.
Okay, and so I have so many questions around that, but we're going to save that for the September 18th webcast, because otherwise we'll be here till dinner, and I can order in virtual pizza for everybody, but I think we'll honor our time frame for folks here today. One of the other things about getting into your passion pivot is knowing your big why. And Nathalie, you seem to be doing a lot of the explaining here today, but you're doing such a great job of it. Can you just give us a quick 30-second vision of what would a big why be for somebody?
Well, there's a guy that does, when he was a kid, he was very poor. They did not have a lot of money. The fridge was always empty. They had to wait on Friday for the dad to get his paycheck in order to buy more grocery for the week. And usually on Thursday, they didn't really have a lot of food, and they had to eat the provided lunch at school for poor people. So this guy now does kitchen renovation. And when he finishes a kitchen renovation, he fills up the fridge with food and fills up the cupboards with food, because Eve believes that the kitchen should be a happy place where people exchange and people have fun together and build memories as a family. And he did not have that as a kid because they did not have enough money. So who gets goosebumps? I get goosebumps every time I hear this story because, and I want him to fix my kitchen because I don't even know how much he charges and it doesn't matter. I'm going to line up to work with him because I know why he does it. So what is your why? Why do you do the things you do? And that really is what it's all about.
So we're looking at your root motivators for doing things, and it can be helping people, it could be helping the environment, it could be about family. It's really, one of the processes of going through this first pillar within the Passion Pivot system is getting clear on what your vision is. So we want to make sure that we have a vision to follow our dreams. And when we take a look at that, we want to take a look at what does drive you. And you can take a look at your career, the one that you're doing now, and you might have got into that career because it put a roof over your head, or Nathalie said, food in the kitchen. But beyond that, what drives you? What are you naturally drawn to? For example, today, I have this webcast we're doing right now, which I am so stoked about. This afternoon, I'm going to confess to you, I have a hybrid life. I have to go and make a presentation for corporate sales training. I am very happy to be here with you, and I wish it could go on all day. Not as thrilled about going to the appointment this afternoon. So it really becomes important that just watch what your actions are. You can say things, but it's people's actions that really have to align. That's what they're really focused on. The other piece about finding your passion is enjoy the journey along the way. That as we go through and we build your passion pivot, we're going to build a runway for it. We're going to give you the mental thought processes to help you execute it. We're going to give you the healthy body to give you the fuel to make all those good things happen. Enjoy the journey on the way. This is not a start and finish kind of race. As a matter of fact, there is no finish line here that anybody's ever found. Okay, you can never be too old to have a dream going forward. So enjoy the journey. And, when you have potential challenges along the way, and you will, take the switch. I love this. The only failure truly that I've ever found is when I don't learn something. Okay. And when you talk to people who've been successful in business, we're ogling it over their success. They've probably had 1,000 more no's in their lives than you and I have ever had. Okay. So, but they're learning from each one of those challenges. So when you're looking for your passion there, know what drives you, make sure that you enjoy the journey. And if you hit a challenge, have that mindset that Stanford study that I referred to earlier says, what can I learn from this? And how can I rejig it and move it forward? So for us in our next steps that Nathalie and I would like to present going forward for you is begin to get some clarity in your vision about what your passion pivot could be. It could be career. Could be interest, could be philanthropy. It could be a variety of things, but it has to be something that, as Warren Buffett said, you drop down those 25 things you're really passionate about, knock out the last 20 and focus on the top 5 and see if you can get 1 or 2 that day in, day out, whether you want to think about it or not, it comes to you. And some of you who are on the call, I know here, you know what I'm talking about, things that just drive you, that should you have freedom of time, these would be the things that you're actually choosing. And the big one, Nathalie, too, is going from thought to action. Can you just sort of give a tip on how people can go from, hey, I would like to do this. What could their first step be?
Well, the thing is, we participate to a webinar, we get all cranked up and we're all excited, and then or we take notes, and then we put these notes on the shelf and they become shelf help, and then we forget about it. And to change a thought into an action, all you need to do is to chunk it down to one thing. What is one thing you would like to do this week, and commit to it, and find an accountability partner. Tell your spouse or your friend, or hey, next week I will have done this one little thing. So have a plan. So write down what it is that you want to have achieved and chunk it down. You can't do everything at once, and that's the main problem usually. People want to do too much, and there's only one step that you can do this week that's totally manageable, and you'll just do that. And
let's say you wanted to be a Nathalie, and you wanted to write 1,000 best-selling books, but you wanted to write your first book. Go to your calendar. It's Thursday now. Find an hour this weekend and put it in your calendar and just say, going to, explore book topics and where you're going to take notes. That could be the first step that you have. Or you could go on and take a look for a YouTube webinar on how to write your first book. But the key thing is to make it concrete, put it in a calendar. I live by my calendar, and a lot of successful people say, I can tell if somebody's going to be successful or not. Show me their calendar. And if the calendar is empty and it's all in their head, then a lot of it becomes vaporware and it never hits the road. But using your calendar helps keep your thoughts organized. So going thought to action, and then start building your passion pivot plan. And what that simply means, as Nathalie said, chunk it down, reverse engineer it, take small steps along the way, and know that it won't be a straight line path. That straight line path for me to start my endangered animal sanctuary, how many schools are there where you can be trained to work with the Siberian tiger or lion or jaguar? There are zero. Had to craft my own way and had to go back and be a bartender along the way just to make ends meet. You'll find ways along the way. So start building your plan and know that somebody is going to put some learning roadblocks in the way. And then, is this an important one, Nathalie, the celebrate and share?
Yeah, we go through life and we get to a goal, or you reach your small, let's say you reach a stepping stone, and we forget to celebrate and tell ourselves, oh my gosh, I'm awesome, I did this, I'm very good, and we continue and we move on. Okay, what's next? And especially in the world that we're in today, it's busy, busy, busy. Busy is the new fine, thank you. People say, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm fine, thank you. No, it's not that. It's how are you? Busy. Everybody's busy because we're multitasking. There's no time where we stop and celebrate and be like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I've done this. I've accomplished this. And one thing that I do recommend that everybody does is to celebrate every single day by writing down your gratitude for the day. Write down what it is that you're grateful for every single day. That creates abundance. There's lots of research that have been done comparing people that are writing gratitudes with people that are winning the lottery. And people that are writing their gratitude every day that don't have any money are happier than people that won the lottery. And it goes exponentially after 3 months, 6 months, a year. It's brilliant.
If I write down a journal and I win the lottery, does that mean I'll be even happier?
Just a journal is enough. The money is not going to do anything, because after 6 months to a year, the money is not doing anything anymore. Once you've done your travel around the world, now what?
Yes.
Right?
You go back and you set up schools and orphanages and help people. Anyway, I can go on, but that's the idea of a passion pivot, is it keeps on going. And when you actually get outside yourself, by the way, this will get into the headspace next time. When you get outside yourself and doing things for yourself, man, do the feelings and motivation come alive. Gives you a sense of purpose, which is very cool. So next steps, celebrate and share. If you're liking what you're hearing here, Nathalie and I have a series of live events going across Canada. And the one that we've got coming up next is going to be in Vancouver on Saturday, October the 20th. So, a couple months out. Live event, it's on the Saturday, it's downtown Vancouver. Happy to share all the details with you. Regular price, the normal price, it's going to be $129. But because you've actually joined us today and participated in today, up until, I think we said September 1st, we're going to drop that price to $79. Nathalie is also graciously kicked in a Think Yourself Successful ebook, which is, if they were to buy the book on its own, Nathalie, hard copy, what is that, a $30 thing?
$23.95, yeah. $28.95, sorry, this one is $28.95, yeah.
And you can also bring a guest for free. So I'm hoping this is hitting you, like we'd like you to be there.
Okay, just 1 second. So does that mean 79 divided by 2 for 2 people? So it's like $40 each? Oh my gosh, we're awesome.
Plus you get a book.
That's a no-brainer. Okay, plus you get a book. An ebook. Okay.
If you're liking what we're talking about, because at this event, what we're able to do is it's going to be a very small event, and we're going to be able to coach people one-on-one to help really get their passion pivots moving. And I don't know if you've attended other live events before, you know that there's a difference between reading it in an article and feeling it at an event, the networking and the connection. I tend to get an awful lot more out of going, face to face. It's a beautiful thing. It will be a very small group. I think our room size is capped out at 50 or 60. So that's it. It's not going to be huge at all. And if you'd like to get a ticket, there is the link there. So you can take a screenshot of your screen right now to get the link, or in about 3 or 4 minutes in your email box, because you registered for the webinar, you'll receive an email with this link as well that you can go in and get that done. So that is it. So we hope you can enjoy the event. That's all we're going to say about it now, because what we would like to do is go to the place where do we have some questions that we can answer from things we've talked about today. So your screen may go just a little bit different as I take a look in the question box here. Okay. And Megan, thank you for saying that. Okay, we're getting a lot of cool comments here. So question is fitness. This one's for you, Natalie. Never was into fitness. My mind's sharp. I've got the idea, why am I going to have to pay attention to, I guess the inference is, why am I going to have to start watching what I eat and exercise?
Well, the thing is, depending on what you were doing, when people tell me I've never been into fitness and I'm super healthy, it means you have been into fitness, but you have not been in a gym. Fitness doesn't mean going to the gym. Living an active lifestyle it is enough. Going for a walk is enough. And if people don't have any problem, there's no you have to eat kale and cucumber at every meal. This is not how it works. What you have to is be healthy. So if you feel healthy, if you feel confident in your skin, if your doctor doesn't tell you that you have a diabetes problem, or you have to check your cholesterol or your level of salt, or check your nutrition, you don't have to do anything. If whatever you're doing is working for you, then it's working. Don't fix it. What we mentioned this for is because too many people, as we age, we don't have the same metabolism. We don't burn calories as we used to, and sometimes we start not fitting into our clothes anymore, or we start to have danger happening in our systems and especially in the gut area, and that could create some more problems. So there are basic ways to eat. If it's transformed, you don't want to eat it.
What Megan could do, she could also reach out to, or this wasn't Megan who was mentioning that, this was somebody else. Reach out to Natalie, and Natalie can certainly talk about them. I know our third webcast certainly deals with the health aspect and and I don't want you to wait that long either, so you can certainly reach out to do that. I'm just trying to be mindful of our time. One more question was, I've heard this pursue your dream piece before. I don't know what my dream is, and that's from Todd. And Todd, thank you for actually saying I could say your name. I appreciate that. Todd, often what we do is we get caught up in our own identity, and whether you've had family and career, I call them tread marks on your consciousness. It's like you get run over every day with the same routines, and we're on a reactive piece. It usually takes a little bit of a decompression and a personal retreat to sort of get a sense of what you would like to do. Here's what I did 10 years ago. The 5 people who knew me the best, I went out and said, when you think of Scott Armstrong, and only using polite things, when you think of Scott Armstrong, what do you think he would be good at? And they were very honest with me, and that helped provide direction, because a lot of the time, you do get so busy, you don't see what other people see in you and the gifts that you have. And that's a good starting point. That could be the next action step, is to talk to somebody who knows you well, who will give you, a good, honest opinion, and get a few of those and marry that with what you think over a period of time. Clarity will start coming from that. Okay, so it is 10 to the hour. We said we were going to be, off pretty much at this moment. So if you have any other questions, I'm going to stay on after the call, and there are a couple more questions, so I'll get to them, but I'll email you privately on those. Next steps for us, Natalie. is we have a webcast on Tuesday, September 18th at 10 a.m. So 10 a.m. again. Again, you being here today, you're automatically registered for that. And it will be on overcoming self-sabotage and creating impactful life habits. And
so that's the second one, right? So that's the head. So we done the heart today, and then next the head.
Yes, and honestly, all the pillars are essential. This is the one I personally have had the biggest trouble with. I've had the visions all the time. I take reasonably good care of myself. It is the self-talk inside my head that has held me back the most. So can I be a panelist as well as a participant that day, Nathalie, as you guide us through that?
Of course.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, everybody, I want to say thank you very much from both Nathalie and I for giving us so generously of your time for the last 50 minutes. I hope you found it worthwhile. If you want to just put something in the chat box and let us know if it was of use to you, we certainly appreciate that. And if there's other things that you'd like us to talk about, we're open to that as well. So for me, Nathalie, I'm just absolutely thrilled that we had such a great and gregarious audience there. Any closing thoughts from you?
I guess the main thing about the heart is that passion that you have, it's not going anywhere. So there's no leaving it on the back burner. It will always come back because it's part of who you are. It's what drives you. It's the reason why you were put on this earth for. It's not going to shut up. You might as well address it.
That's right. Go with the flow of that river. All right. Thank you guys so much. It is Thursday here in British Columbia. We're seeing the sun for the first time in a couple of weeks. The smoke's going away. I think that's kind of clarity for the vision for us here. And wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day as well. Reach out to us at email if you'd like to. Get those tickets now. You should have an email in your box. We'd love to see you at the October 20th event. And enjoy the last 10 days of summer because you probably have earned it. All right. For Scott, have yourselves a great day, guys. Cheers.
Bye, guys.